The cry in the dark. The ship landed on a broken world. The sky was dark, filled with smoke and ash. Fire burned in the distance. Bodies, some human, some alien, lay still in the dirt. The war had ended here days ago, but the silence still screamed, louder than any explosion. Jace Thorne stepped off his shuttle and looked around. He was not a soldier anymore, not after what happened on Aurus Station. Now he was just a scavenger, someone who searched for scrap, parts, anything valuable left behind after the battles. His boots crunched over blackened rubble as he walked. The smell of burnt metal and flesh filled the air. His scanner beeped. Nothing alive, only ruins. He moved deeper into the wreckage of what once was a peaceful alien village. Then, he heard it. A sound. Not the wind. Not a machine. A cry. It was soft. Weak. Like a whisper, trying not to be heard. Jace froze. He turned off the scanner and listened again. The cry came again, from beneath a pile of metal sheets and broken beams. "What the hell?" he muttered. Jace pulled his blaster and carefully approached. He knelt and started moving debris. A piece of cloth. A burnt toy. A broken alien comm unit. Then, tiny fingers. His heart stopped. Beneath the wreckage, half covered in dust and blood, was a small alien child, thin, shaking, with wide, glowing eyes. Her skin was pale blue with silver marks on her cheeks. She looked no older than 6. She was alive. "Hey," Jace said softly, putting away the blaster. "I'm not here to hurt you." The girl didn't speak. She just stared at him, afraid. He held out his hand. She flinched. "Easy. I'm here to help, I promise." He could have walked away. He should have. But something in her eyes, something that looked like pure fear and hope together, pulled at something deep inside him. A memory. A face. A child screaming in another war. Another time. Jace gently lifted the girl from the rubble. She was light. Too light. Probably hadn't eaten in days. "You're safe now," he whispered. He carried her back to his shuttle, wrapped her in a thermal blanket, and gave her a protein bar. She stared at it, unsure. Then slowly took a bite. "What's your name?" he asked. She stayed silent. "Okay. We'll figure that out later." He sat beside her. The night outside grew colder. The stars above looked distant and uncaring. Jace leaned back and closed his eyes. But somewhere out in space, a signal had already been sent. Somewhere on a Vroktak warship. Target found. A deep voice said. A hologram of Jace holding the child appeared. He took the girl. Another voice hissed. "Send the message, the human is now marked." Back on the ship, the girl finally spoke. Just one word. "Luma." Jace opened his eyes. "Luma, that your name?" She nodded. "I'm Jace," he said, and smiled. "Nice to meet you, Luma." Outside, a cold wind howled over the ruins of the world. Inside, a human and an alien child sat together, alone, unwanted but alive. What Jace didn't know was that this one moment, this one act of kindness, would make him the most hunted man in the galaxy, and it had just begun, the name that marked him. The next morning, Jace awoke to silence, not the peaceful kind. It was too quiet. No wind, no distant rumble of falling buildings, just stillness, like the world itself was holding its breath. Luma was curled up beside him, wrapped in the thermal blanket. Her breathing was slow but steady. He was glad for that. Jace looked out through the small window of his shuttle. The sky was clearing, but only just. Burnt clouds hung low, hiding the sun. The battlefield still looked like hell. He turned back to his console and checked the systems. Fuel was low, but enough to reach the next station. Food, barely enough for 2 more days if he split it. Medical supplies, almost nothing. He had to move fast. "Okay, kid," he said gently, waking Luma. "We're heading to the nearest outpost. It's a trade station. Neutral zone. No questions asked. We'll be safe there for a while. Luma nodded slowly. She didn't speak again, but she didn't look away from him either. That meant something. Jace launched the shuttle into the sky, flying toward the edge of the system. The trip would take 6 hours. He hoped that would be enough time to figure out what to do next. 6 hours later, Drift Station 9 was an old mining port turned free market trading post. Floating near a dead moon, it was home to smugglers, traders, outlaws, and people like Jace, people who wanted to disappear. He landed the shuttle, kept Luma wrapped in a cloak, and entered through a side gate. No one questioned him. They were all too busy minding their own shady business. Stay close, Jace whispered. Luma nodded and held his hand. They made their way through the crowded corridors. Neon lights flickered overhead. Aliens of all kinds moved past, some with robotic limbs, others in heavy armor. Loud music and the smell of burning oil filled the air. He stopped at a small supply shop owned by a greasy old man named Talvin. Jace, Talvin grinned. Thought you were dead. Not yet, Jace said. I need food packs, med kits, and fuel cells. On credit, Talvin narrowed his eyes. Credit's dry for most these days. I'll trade, Jace said, pulling out a rare energy core from his bag. Talvin whistled. That'll do. As Talvin packed the supplies, Luma stood near the door, eyes wide as she watched a group of armored warriors pass by. They looked down at her, then moved on. Cute kid, Talvin said. Jace tensed. She's not for sale. Relax, Talvin said. I don't deal in flesh. Jace nodded, grabbed the supplies, and turned to leave. Then he saw it, his face. On a glowing bounty board, wanted. Jace, Thorn, for abduction of sacred air. 500,000 credits. Dead or alive. Oh no, he whispered. He grabbed Luma and pulled her close. A voice behind him snarled, That's him. Jace spun, blaster in hand. A gang of mercs had spotted him. They drew their weapons, fast. Jace fired first. The first two dropped. Luma screamed. He grabbed her, dashed into the nearest alley and ran. Blaster bolts hit walls around them as he weaved through the station. Alarms started blaring. Bounty hunters started chasing. Why? Jace muttered as they ran. What the hell are you, kid? They made it back to the shuttle. Jace threw open the hatch, shoved Luma inside, and hit the launch. The ship roared to life. As they flew out of the docking ring, a huge ship blocked their path, a Vroktak destroyer. Unregistered vessel. A deep voice growled over the comm. You are carrying a stolen asset. Surrender or be vaporized. Hell no, Jace snapped. He dove into a steep nosedive toward the moon below. Laser cannons fired, barely missing the shuttle. Jace gritted his teeth and pushed the engines harder than he ever had. They broke through the moon's dust clouds and disappeared into the dark side, hiding in a canyon. For now, inside the shuttle. Hours later, Jace leaned against the wall, breathing hard. The engines were cooling. The damage was bad but fixable. He looked at Luma. Who are you? He asked quietly. She stared back. Then, she touched his chest with a tiny hand. You're not bad, she whispered. You saved me. Now they want me dead because of it, he said, shaking his head. Jace stood and walked over to a console. He searched the bounty net again. There it was, his face, his name. And beside it, crime. Abduction of the last royal bloodline. Target, Luma. Of Rentari, Jace turned slowly to her. Your royalty? Luma looked down. I was. And now, every warlord in the galaxy wants you. Luma nodded. And me, for not giving you up. She nodded again. Jace chuckled bitterly. Great, just great. He sat down beside her. Well, kid, guess we're in this together. Across the galaxy, on a council ship, he's still alive. A cold voice said, kill him, another growled. Before the people see him as a hero. Hunted through the stars stretched endless ahead of them, but nowhere felt safe. Jace Thorne sat at the cockpit, eyes locked on the scanner. Behind him, the hum of the ship's damaged engine reminded him they were still one good hit from floating dead in space. Beside him, little Luma slept wrapped in a blanket, her breathing soft, unaware of the death chasing them. He hadn't slept in 2 days. Since leaving Drift Station 9, they'd been followed, tracked, hunted. The Vroktak destroyer had not given up. Worse, the bounty had doubled, 1 million credits now. And it wasn't just warlords anymore. Pirates, bounty hunters, syndicates, and even some military fleets had joined the chase, all because he chose to save one child. He leaned back and rubbed his face. Every star system they jumped to ended the same. Hostile scans, warnings, ambushes, near misses. Twice he'd barely outrun death. Once he had to land on a dead moon, disguise the ship, and hide underground for 12 hours while mercenaries circled above. Jace wasn't even sure if he was running to something anymore, or just away. 3 days earlier, orbit of Echo 9, the planet was dark and volcanic. Smoke clouds swirled in the upper atmosphere. No settlements, no scans. A good place to hide. Or so he thought. He landed in an old mining outpost hoping to refuel and disappear. But within 30 minutes, 3 ships entered orbit. One was Vroktak. The other 2, bounty clans. They weren't talking, just aiming weapons. Jace grabbed Luma, ran into the mine tunnels, and left behind a surprise. 2 thermal cores wired to explode. The fireball lit up the sky. He escaped through a maintenance shaft and stole a junker ship on the far side of the crater. He didn't speak for hours after that. Neither did Luma. Present. Edge of the Rokar Belt. The Rokar Belt was a graveyard of broken ships, ice rocks, and lost tech. Dangerous, unstable, but also untraceable. No radar worked in the core of the belt. If they made it inside, they could vanish. Jace powered the ship forward. Alarms blared as they entered the storm zone. Asteroid debris slammed into the shields. The engine shook. Luma held his arm tightly. "Are we going to die?" Jace didn't answer. He didn't know. A sudden blip on the scanner. "Damn," he growled. They followed us. 3 Hunter-class interceptors entered the belt behind him. Sleek, fast, deadly. They had better speed, better weapons, and better armor. "Hold on, kid," Jace said, flipping switches and rerouting power. The chase began. Weaved through chunks of frozen metal and spinning wrecks. Lasers fired past his ship, missing by inches. One asteroid exploded beside them, knocking the ship sideways. Luma screamed. Jace gritted his teeth, rebalanced, and dove deeper into the field. A Hunter clipped its wing on a spinning freighter hull and exploded. One down. The other 2 pressed in. They wanted a clean kill. No wreck. They wanted the child intact. Jace hit the emergency vent, releasing a cloud of plasma and debris from the rear. The scanners of the second Hunter jammed. It crashed into a giant metal fragment and disintegrated. One left. Jace flew toward a large structure, a derelict war cruiser from the last Galactic War, split in half and floating dead in space. "Hang on," he whispered. He turned off engines just before reaching the ship, glided into the dead hangar, and powered everything down. Silent, invisible. He watched on a cracked monitor as the final Hunter searched outside. After 3 minutes, it turned and vanished into the fog. He didn't move for another hour. Inside the derelict cruiser, "This place smells like death," Jace muttered, flashlight in hand. Luma walked beside him, clutching a small tracker he gave her. They explored, cautiously. The old cruiser had been destroyed long ago, but some systems still worked. Maybe even a jump core or fuel tank. "What is this place?" Luma asked. "A grave," Jace said, "and maybe our best chance to live." They found an old nav room, surprisingly intact. Jace pulled out a portable drive and plugged it in. It took minutes, but he downloaded the ship's nav records, a forgotten jump route through uncharted space. Perfect. As they turned to leave, they heard footsteps. Jace pulled Luma behind him, drew his blaster. A tall figure entered, armor painted with symbols of a dead clan. You the human carrying the girl? The figure asked. Depends, Jace said. You here to kill us? The figure paused, then removed his helmet. He was half human, scarred, tired eyes. Old soldier. I was sent to kill you, the man said. But I changed my mind. Why? Because she's not just royalty, he said, looking at Luma. She's the key. Key to what? Peace or destruction? Jace didn't understand. The man handed him a sealed chip. There are others who want to help, not many, but enough to matter. Go to the place marked here. They'll explain. And you? I'll hold them off, but they'll come again, and harder. The man turned and walked into the dark. Luma looked at Jace. Can we trust him? We can't trust anyone, Jace said. But we have no choice. Secrets in her blood. Jace watched the stars blink across the screen as they jumped into uncharted space. The ship shook from stress. The old nav route the soldier gave them wasn't made for civilian engines. Corridors groaned. Metal snapped in places, and for a moment Jace thought they might tear apart. But the jump stabilized. Silence returned. They were alone again. But not safe. Jace leaned back in the pilot's chair, staring at the data chip the man had given him. It was old, pre-war code markings, not something found on the open market. He plugged it into his personal console. The screen flickered. A hologram appeared. A hooded alien woman, her face hidden in shadows. If you're seeing this, she said in a soft voice, you carry her, and you need to know the truth. 2 hours earlier, deep in space, Luma sat in the medbay swinging her feet. Jace had strapped her arm into a small scanner. She watched curiously as it lit up and hummed. Just checking your vitals, Jace said, but he wasn't just checking for health. He was testing for why everyone wanted her. The scan results finished, and what he saw made his blood run cold. Her DNA. It wasn't just alien. It wasn't just royal. It had been modified, at the genetic level, centuries ago. Her blood carried traits from several races, human, Ilari, Vroktak, and another Jace didn't even recognize, and in the middle of it all, a dormant code. It pulsed once on screen. Then activated. Suddenly, the ship's AI locked. Access denied. System locked. What the hell? An emergency file opened. The same hologram woman. Now, in the cockpit, her name is Luma, of Vrentari, the woman began. But she is more than bloodline. She is balance. Jace leaned forward, listening. 500 years ago, the Great Galactic War ended with a hidden treaty. 5 races agreed to stop fighting. But they knew peace would not last. So they created a child. One child, who could unite all their bloodlines. A child who could speak every tongue, feel every pain, carry every hope. But peace was a lie, she said sadly. One by one, the races betrayed the plan. They hunted her creators, destroyed the labs, erased the truth. But Luma was hidden, and now, if she lives, she will awaken powers that can either unite the stars or burn them all. Jace stared at the screen. She's not just a girl, he whispered. She's a living weapon. Later, in the engine bay, you're quiet, Jace said, sitting beside Luma as she ate. You're scared, she replied. He looked at her. You read me that easily? She nodded. I always feel what others feel. It's loud, especially yours. Jace hesitated. Do you know what you are? She looked down. Different. They made you, Luma, not just born, built for peace, for power. She didn't answer. He continued. I don't know what they want you to be, but I won't let them use you. She looked up. Not even you? Jace smiled sadly. Not even me. Suddenly, a loud alarm rang. Incoming vessel detected. Jace jumped up and ran to the cockpit. On the radar, a dread ship. Black, angular, Vroktak design, not a hunter but worse. A retriever class, designed to capture, not kill. They found us, he muttered. The capture begins. The dread ship launched drones. Hundreds of them. Like metal insects, they swarmed toward the ship. Jace fired up shields and evasive thrusters. "We can't outrun them," he growled. He turned to Luma. "Can you do anything? Anything at all?" Luma closed her eyes. The lights dimmed. For a moment, everything was still. Then the main screen flashed. Symbols danced across the interface. Alien glyphs. Ancient code. A wave of energy burst from the ship's core. Outside, the drone spun wildly, then exploded. The dreadship powered down. Systems crashed. Jace stared. Did you do that?" Luma opened her eyes. "I don't know. How? It just happened. You disabled a dreadship. With your mind. It felt like I touched something inside me. Like a door opened." She fell unconscious. Jace caught her before she hit the floor. Somewhere, on a secret council ship, a Vroktak commander slammed his fist on a table. "She's awakening." A silent figure spoke at last. "Then it is no longer about bounty." "What, now?" another asked. "We send the high hunters," the figure replied, "and we end the human." Hours later, on Jace's ship, Luma slept in a cryopod, her vitals stable but strange, her brain activity off the charts. Jace sat at the cockpit, staring at the map. The chip had shown a final location, a hidden world, marked only by 3 letters, Eli. He didn't know what was there, but it was their last chance. "Hang in there, kid," he whispered. "I'm getting you home." The Betrayer's planet, the ship limped into orbit around the dead planet called Kravax. The surface was dark red, cracked, and boiling with toxic gases. But beneath that wasteland was an underground city known only to outlaws, exiles, and those who'd been erased from every galactic record. Jace had been here once years ago during his worst hour, and the man who saved him then now might be the only one who could help. As the ship docked in a hidden bay, Luma still slept inside the cryopod, her mind burning with strange signals and unexplainable power spikes. Her dreams showed her images of war, of voices in languages she hadn't learned but somehow understood, of fire and death. Jace stepped off the ramp into the shadows of Kravax, holding a blaster under his jacket. He scanned every face. Alien, human hybrids, mutants. All sorts of beings moved around him, trading, gambling, surviving. Then a voice called from behind a rusted gate. "Never thought I'd see you again, Jace Thorne." The voice belonged to Drex Vale, former war captain, now a shadow broker. His body was half machine, his eyes like scanning lasers. Jace remembered how many had died because of him, and how Drex had once pulled Jace from a failed op and spared him execution. "I need help," Jace said. "I figured." Drex replied, "You always crawl back when the whole galaxy's after you. This is bigger. I have a child with me. They're hunting her. Vroktak, syndicates, everyone. She's not normal." "You don't say," Drex said dryly. "And what do I get? For sticking my neck out?" Jace pulled out the chip with the hidden coordinates. Drex's eyes lit up. "Ely? That system's a myth. You said the same about the war beast of Norak, and you still got the scar." Drex chuckled. "Fair. Enough, bring the girl. You'll both be safe here and for a price." Deep beneath Kravax, the ambush Jace brought Luma inside. She had awakened, her mind still fogged from the energy burst. The place Drex provided was a secure chamber, shielded and deep underground. But something felt wrong. Too quiet. The guards weren't just watching the corridors, they were watching her. Jace noticed, and when Drex returned, he didn't come alone. A Vroktak warlord stood beside him. "You sold us out," Jace said, voice low. "It's business, Jace," Drex replied. "I gave you your life once. Now I'm taking it back. You don't know what she is." "I know enough. The Vroktak offered 10 million credits. I'd be stupid to say no." "You're already dead," Jace said. He drew his blaster, but 5 guns were already aimed at him. "Drop it," the Vroktak growled. Luma stepped forward. "Let him go." The Vroktak laughed. "Little one, you have no power here." Luma's eyes glowed faintly. And then the guards hesitated. They didn't lower their weapons, but their arms trembled. One dropped his gun entirely. Luma spoke a single word, in an ancient language no one in the room should have known. But they all understood it. Kneel one by one, the mercenaries obeyed. Even Drex looked shaken. What are you? The Vroktak roared and raised his cannon, but Jace fired first. The warlord fell. Run, Jace said, grabbing Luma's hand. They fled through the tunnels. Drex screamed behind them, ordering the others to chase. But most didn't. They couldn't. Luma's voice had reached something in them, like a command too deep to ignore. Escape through fire. The exit route led through an old reactor shaft. The heat burned their skin. The vents screamed with pressure. And Jace had to hack 3 doors while holding off guards. Finally, they reached the dock. Only one ship stood there. An old smuggler's vessel, half-fueled and barely flying. "This'll have to do," Jace muttered. As they launched, Drex appeared on the platform. He didn't shoot, didn't scream. He simply stared at Luma, in fear, as if he had seen something that shook him to his core. Aboard the ship, hours later, Luma sat silently, staring at her hands. "You made them kneel," Jace said, still trying to believe what he saw. "I didn't mean to," she whispered. "It just happened. Something inside me woke up. Something old." "What did you say to them?" "I don't know the word, but it felt like it belonged to kings and queens, to warlords, to gods." Jace looked at her. "You're becoming something they don't understand, something they fear." Luma's voice cracked. "Does that scare you too?" He shook his head. "It scares me for you, not of you." On a Vroktak command ship, a soldier rushed into the chamber. The human escaped again. The High Commander turned to the shadows behind him. "The child is no longer a passive target," he said. "She is awakening." A new figure stepped forward, taller, cloaked in black armor. "Then it's time we stop playing games," the figure said. "Send the High Hunters. The price of kindness." The stolen smuggler's ship barely made it out of Krevak's orbit. Systems were failing. Fuel was low. And the next jump route required a functioning nav array, something this scrap bucket didn't have. Jace Thorne leaned against the cracked control panel, sweat on his brow, hands covered in grease and blood. He had patched the coolant line with melted armor plating, rerouted power using a piece of old wiring from the cargo bay. They were still flying. Barely behind him, Luma lay sleeping again. After what she did, making grown warriors drop their weapons with a single word, her body was exhausted. Her mind had gone somewhere deep, like it was trying to protect itself. Jace hadn't told her, but her blood wasn't just waking ancient instincts. It was drawing something to her. Meanwhile, deep in space, a fleet moved without light. Black ships, silent, running through the void like shadows with purpose. At their head was the High Hunter dreadnought, a ship feared even by warlords. No one saw it coming. No one survived once it arrived. Aboard it stood a figure with glowing red eyes, a voice like knives scraping steel. "The human defies fate," he said. "But kindness always has a price." Back on Jace's ship, an unwanted signal, a loud beep broke the silence. Jace jumped. "Check the panel." "No," he whispered. No. How? They'd been found again. A signal pinged from space just outside the nebula they were skimming. Then, 4 blips appeared on the scanner. Stealth-class warships, High Hunters. Jace's heart dropped. He had fought alongside soldiers, rebels, killers, but High Hunters weren't normal assassins. They were born in death, trained to think like machines. They never missed. They never stopped. "We can't outrun them," he muttered. "We can't even outfly them." He looked back at Luma. Still asleep, still glowing faintly, he whispered to her. "I told you I'd protect you. I didn't promise I'd live." He strapped a blast rifle to his chest, loaded every clip he had, walked to the rear airlock. Planetfall. Arena of death. The Hunters didn't fire from space. They did something worse. They disabled the ship, used a gravity pulse that dragged Jace's ship down into the atmosphere of a nearby barren world. It slammed into the dirt and slid across the ground, tearing up metal and flame. Jace woke with blood on his lips, ribs cracked, arms trembling. They were surrounded. 4 high hunters in bone-black armor walked toward him. And they weren't interested in negotiation. They wanted the girl. "You'll have to kill me," Jace said, standing in front of the wreckage. "We plan to," one said. They attacked. Jace moved like a soldier from a past life. Fast, precise, brutal. He shot one in the visor. Sparks. It staggered, not down. Another swung a blade at his side. He ducked, rolled, fired upward. Blood. But not enough. He was outnumbered. They stabbed him. Twice. Jace fell, blood pouring from his chest. He coughed, laughed bitterly. "Is that all you got?" he whispered. They raised their weapons until a sound filled the air. A scream. Not human. Not alien. Something older. The hunters turned. Luma stood at the edge of the wreckage, barefoot, eyes glowing white gold now. Energy pulsed from her body, warping gravity, lifting dust and rocks around her. Her voice boomed, not from her throat, but from the air itself. "He gave blood for peace. You give blood for war. Choose." The hunter staggered, froze. One dropped his weapon, another backed away, then turned and ran. The remaining 2 resisted. She raised her hand, and lightning, not natural, but forged from ancient star magic, ripped through them. They burned. Jace lay there, eyes blurry, half-conscious. Luma knelt beside him. "You said you wouldn't die." He laughed weakly. "I lie sometimes." "Don't lie now," she said. "Don't go." Her tears fell onto his chest. They shimmered, melted into his skin, and suddenly his wounds closed. Jace gasped. Life rushed back into him like flame catching oxygen. He sat up, stared at his chest. No blood. "What did you do?" "I gave you something back," she said. "You gave me a name. I gave you time." On the dreadnought, Chaos, the lead hunter, felt it. His soldiers, gone, killed or broken, by a child, by a human sacrifice. He slammed a fist through the screen. "She is no longer a target," he said. "She is a threat." "Then what now?" an officer asked. "Now, we call the Scorched Ones." On the Scorched World, hours later, Jace sat near the fire, Luma beside him, quiet. He looked at the stars above. "They'll keep coming," he said. "I know," she replied. "You didn't have to save me. You didn't have to save me. First," he smiled. They sat in silence. A man with nothing and a girl with power to end empires. The galaxy was changing. And now, it knew her name. The child who changed the galaxy. 3 days passed. They traveled in silence deep into the void beyond any star chart. Jace flew a stolen courier craft, patched together from the broken remains of the wreckage on the Scorched World. Behind him, Luma sat still, her golden eyes now fully awake, watching not just space but something beneath it. Jace had changed too. Her healing had done more than close wounds. He could feel it in his veins. His strength returned faster, his reaction time sharper, even his mind clearer. He was no longer just a man on the run. He was the guardian of something that could rewrite history. The final destination was near now, marked only by the word Ely, a planet thought lost, a myth, hidden from every galactic map, ancient, forgotten. But in Luma's blood it had remained like a beacon, waiting for the right time. And now, that time had come. As they entered orbit, the ship jolted, not from enemy fire, from activation. An energy field encircled the vessel. Jace had no control over it. The ship moved on its own, descending slowly into a world of strange lights and floating stone towers. Gravity shimmered, reality twisted, and then calm. They landed in a perfect circle of white grass. No armies, no guards, just silence. And one, Figure standing in the distance. The last guardian, an old man, skin like weathered bark, eyes that glowed blue and silver. "Welcome, child of 5 bloods," he said. Luma stepped forward. "Why did you call me here?" she asked. "You were not called," the man replied. "You were born to return." He looked at Jace. "And you, human, are the key." "Me?" Jace asked. "I'm just the idiot who picked her up from a pile of rubble." The old man shook his head. And that is exactly what changed everything. The truth of a lie inside the ancient temple, built into a mountain of glass and crystal. Jace and Luma were shown the truth. 5 races: humans, Ilari, Vroktak, Rin, and the Vanished. Shalar had once built a machine called the Balance Core. It could stabilize peace across worlds by syncing minds, hearts, and power. But the core required a living key. A child Luma, the last of the line, part of every species. Heart made of compassion. Mind built for unity. But warlords had feared it. Destroyed the temples, hunted the heirs, until only one was hidden. In a peaceful village, now destroyed, and Jace, by saving her, had restarted the prophecy. Across the stars, war brews in countless worlds. The news spread fast. The girl lives. Some rallied. Others sharpened weapons. Assassins were sent. Fleets gathered. Leaders argued. "Kill her," said many. "Protect her," said few. One human changed her fate. But could she change theirs? A gathering called. The old man of Ely sent signals through ancient channels. A gathering of worlds was called on a neutral moon, Kardeth, orbiting the dead ring of Valos. An ancient diplomatic site now reactivated for the first time in centuries. Representatives from over 30 systems arrived. Not all came in peace. Some came to judge her. Others came to end her. Jace didn't sleep the night before. He cleaned his old war armor, checked his weapons, and stood beside Luma as she prepared to step onto the platform where her fate, and possibly the galaxy's, would be decided. On Kardeth, the trial of one child, the hall was massive. Carved into obsidian, guarded by sentinels, Luma stood in the center, glowing softly, surrounded by tension. A Vroktak general pointed his blade. "This child is a weapon. She must be destroyed before she awakens fully." A human diplomat stood. "She is hope." And that man, he pointed to Jace, risked his life to protect her. That means something. A Shalar representative, the first seen in 200 years, spoke last. "I feel the blood of my ancestors in her. We will not strike." Down our own, the hall exploded in shouting, anger, fear, division, and then a gunshot. The assassin's bullet from the shadows, a sniper fired, aimed directly at Luma, too fast to dodge. Jace moved without thought, threw himself in front of her. The bullet hit his chest. He dropped. Luma screamed. The energy around her exploded. Light erupted from her skin, filling the hall with pure force. The entire moon shook. Everyone fell silent. Frozen. Luma stood tall, tears streaming. "No more." Her voice echoed in every language at once. "No more war. No more fear. No more killing the ones who show kindness." She raised her hand. And then she brought Jace back. Not just healed him, but revived him. His heart beat again. His eyes opened. And in that moment, even the Vroktak general knelt. Epilogue. 1 year later, the galaxy had changed. Not overnight, not completely, but change had begun. The balance core on Ely was rebuilt. Luma now traveled between worlds, not as a queen, not as a goddess, but as a voice for the voiceless. And Jace? He stood at her side. Older now. Still scarred. Still dangerous. But never alone. He was no longer a fugitive. He was a legend because one act of kindness and had rewritten the fate of stars.